Hello everyone, welcome to Dev Chat. I am here with Peter Lantz, the developer of Castle on the Coast. Would you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Peter. I'm the developer of this game. Almost solo developer. I did everything but the music, and then a great deal of audio was done by a friend named Alec Malatuti.
Cool. So so I talked to Fabraz as well in the previous episode about this. How did you get into game dev? What's the story there?
So long one. I'll try and keep it short.
No worries. We've got an hour.
I started with Game Maker. Growing up, and like a friend showed it to me. We tried using it one day. We couldn't figure it out.
So did you grow up like wanting to, make games?
I did. Yeah, I have come up with game ideas left and right.
Yep.
I tried and show it to my brother, but he got annoyed when I did. Because I kept coming up with ideas, and it's kind of like, why are you showing me things?
Get away from me.
I tried making games on Microsoft Word.
Okay.
A friend showed me like this thing you did where you put a bunch of 3D shapes on the screen. I just like move a dot around.
That's cool.
And then learned about Game Maker. Started using that. Roblox is part of my journey a bit. I played Roblox, so I'm like 30 now. And Roblox was just coming out back then, and I'd say I started learning my 3D modeling skills from it, like just working in 3D space in general.
Yeah.
And then went to a tech center, learned that 3D modeling was a thing, learned that programming was a thing, learned you could actually make money doing those things.
Yeah.
And I was very thankful to find it. I was very thankful to find all that because growing up, I was afraid I wouldn't find something I'd enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I always liked doing origami.
Yeah.
Which is like folding paper to make shapes.
Yeah, got that.
And I was somehow really good at that.
So
And
that's like analog 3D modeling.
Is a lot like that.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Cool. So how'd you go from Game Maker into, this is Unreal, right? Castle on the Coast?
Yes.
Yeah, so I know like it's something to do with a hospital and an ad agency. Could you, talk about the journey there?
Yeah, it's a pretty rough one, to be honest.
It's a unique one, that's for sure.
It's unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unique. It's pretty unique. It's a little heartwarming, a little not.
Yeah.
So the reason, I was working at an advertising agency where this game was developed, and originally it was for it was gonna be more of like an advertising tool. So it was gonna be this arcade cabinet you'd stick in doctor's offices.
Yeah.
And it would entertain kids while they're waiting for their doctor's appointment, and Valley Children's name would be on it. And the idea is if you solve a problem of like entertaining, like if you solve a problem, you'll get your name out there, I guess.
Like an arcade tile, like a high score thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's actually another guy working on it, who got me the job at Daniel Bryan Advertising Agency, and he was working on a completely different version of this game. It was more of like an endless runner type of deal, and I ended up just overhauling his work completely.
Okay.
That's why
Sorry, go ahead.
I like to give him a shout out, but like I don't want to give him a shout out that said just completely overhauled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I hope you appreciate that. But
Sorry. So one thing I like about Castle on the Coast is
Hello,
this.
Giraffe.
It's like it's
What's
one of the
your
few like specially solely developed games that has voice acting. Like, was that an intentional choice, or is that something you just, might as well?
Oh, silly me.
Very
It says it
intentional.
right there.
So
George.
yeah, as I said, this was developed for
Hi, George.
it's developed for
My name
kids.
is
Yeah.
Samantha
And eventually the
Von
vision
Gopher.
switched
But
to
welcome to the castle on the coast.
we're doing this for kids in the hospital.
Mm.
Like it was gonna be put in the hospital,
Yeah.
be played by the kids in the hospital, like Valley Children's
Haven't seen you in a
specifically.
while.
And
Is everything okay?
so I
Keeps leaving
always
books
had
out
in
on the
mind
tables.
what would kids enjoy.
Yeah.
I also had to
Go
keep in
away
mind that
already.
some of them don't know how to read yet.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So that's why all the characters are
We
voice
are
acted, is
tired of
because
your meddling, Vendrick.
you can,
There's only a handful of
if you
books
can't read,
left
at least
out.
you can hear the voices and make it learn how to read in the process.
Exactly. And it's what, again, it makes the game stand out because, again, not a lot of other indie games have voice acting. It's usually just text.
Good one.
Yeah,
How about this?
I'd like to keep that pattern up with Veil, because I thought it added a lot, because there's a lot of emotion you can express with the acting, and I really liked that.
Give me the books.
That's one, again,
My
that's
turn
one of the
you
things I liked about
and
this
your
game. Did
friends.
you,
It's a simple
like,
decision.
was the
Really.
story there from the beginning when you started working on the project, or is this something that gradually came up with, orphans and all?
Come on.
It was
Before
not.
my beard grows in.
It's very much gameplay first.
Hmm.
Originally, the game had
Yeah, Miles. I just
Yeah,
hang
so
around you to look cool.
the game had like basically all the main levels in it
What?
before there was even a story to begin with.
Okay, so you wrote the story around the levels, basically.
Yeah,
That's
so
like it.
the game always had this
I
hub
appreciate
layout,
your agreement
like
to
this
our demands.
hub and spoke model, where you start the ocean, library, there's the rainy castle, the stunt park, and the forest connected to that. So that was kind of what I was working with. And I knew I wanted the game to have a story.
Yeah.
So during this blizzard, I just sat down for a week. Where I wasn't working in the office, because I worked in the office, at a company making this, and which is weird, but that's how it
Yeah.
happened.
Our parents
And yeah, I just sat down, just banged out a story, and it was written off of
I guess it's our fault.
kind of like experiences growing up,
We didn't treat
Yeah.
them
of
very
watching
nice
people
for
argue.
some reason.
And how,
Hey,
like,
George.
I'm guessing working in an ad agency helped with finding people to act, like voice act?
It did. I'd say, I don't know what the percentage is, but Sammy right there is voiced by a lady in the office.
Okay.
She always had like a very positive sounding voice.
Of the library.
Very exciting.
And I like that. I like that it's not, like a full-on professional voice actor. It sounds a lot more, like charming, and I don't know how to say it without sounding a bit degrading, but like homemade. It gives it that extra character.
Yes.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I'll show you
I
how to
picked
find
everybody
Allie and Vendrick.
off of their personality. That's like their natural personality.
Yeah.
Most of the voices were done by the Kendall College of Art and Design. Like we just visited there. So Alec Valatuti came from that school, and we just kind of went over and just recorded a bunch of college student voices.
Okay.
So like, and they're all like really well recorded.
Sorry,
because,
did I just hear a burp?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. That's a thing you intentionally specifically added. Cool.
There's a burp, a frog's burp.
Okay. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah. So every voice was either like a college student or some random person from the office.
Awesome.
I
Well,
want to shout out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a guy named Simon who did the voices for
Hi, George.
the
Thank you for
armor
agreeing
suits.
to help.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
those
very,
were
like,
scary.
growly
I
sound.
like it's a weird thing. Like I remember, it reminded me of horror sections in non-horror games where it's just like, it feels like, I don't know, a bit intimidating,
Yeah, I
Most
wanted
of the
it to be.
Allie and
I knew it
Vendrick
wasn't gonna be
came
like
out
that
with
scary,
Yeah.
but I thought it'd be like
That's the easiest way.
funny.
Yeah.
The problem is,
So I know I looked through the design documents, so I noticed that you called George Skipper. So how did that name change come about?
I think
Alright,
they're
so
trying
the
to ignore
game
us as much
was
as they
originally for
could.
Valley Children's,
Hmm.
and then they dropped us as a client
Okay.
at
Yeah,
advertising
that's
agency.
the
So
Lab.
the game got developed without it
In
being for
order
arcade
to
cabinet
reach
for
the
a long
tower,
time.
We have to insert 4
And
key
it wasn't
stones
towards
into this
until
rock.
like towards the end of
Do
development,
that, then a path
like,
to the top
the
of
last
tower
year and a
will
half,
open up.
where
Alejandro
it
and
turned
Vendrick
in
hit them
maybe
well,
2 years, I
though.
can't remember,
Could you help us find
where they basically sponsored the game.
Hmm.
And we're like, we're gonna pay X amount of money.
Sure.
Yeah.
You'll put
Could you
your
please find
like,
the
we'll
key
put the
stones for
character
us?
in there.
You won't find any
Sure.
in my
It'll
room,
be like,
but I'm sure anywhere else there will be at least one.
we will like have this game be playable in the hospital. Like,
Thanks,
like this is
George.
gonna be like a thing for our
Please
kids,
be
basically.
careful.
Yeah.
That was the
Those two
idea.
used to be nice, but they
And
aren't
I know his
today
design,
anymore.
George's or Skipper's design also changed over time. I know it started out as like a Rayman style, like, you know, the disembodied, like the limbs are basically separated from the body. Like, what was the evolution of the character and how did it change over time? Why'd you go for more, like, this style of doll like
Oh
Giraffe?
yeah, so that was a
Especially
prototype
Vendrick.
model.
Watch out.
Hmm.
So the way to do development, and I think some studios do this too,
Good luck.
where they use very basic models to like work out the gameplay, and then from there, once they work out the gameplay and like just ensure everything fits,
Hmm.
they start replacing models with final ones. So that's where the evolution came from. But his kind of like, I call it like a sock
Yo,
puppet design,
Giraffe.
like a skirt
Yeah.
design.
Talk to me if you need a hand.
No, it looks like a doll, and I like it. Especially like, you can probably see in one of the previous cutscenes, like the bulging out eyes. Like it's
Yeah.
adorable, and like that's one of the things I like about the game. That's one of the things I think that makes the game stand out. Like I feel like if it was just another human character, like a any old generic character, it wouldn't be as endearing. But the fact that you've got a giraffe that can wave and like that can sit down, like things like that are small touches, but really add a lot to the game. So, was that like something you like intentionally did, or is that something just like, you know, might as well?
We always knew it was going to be a giraffe because the hospital's
hospital, yeah.
mascot, George.
Hmm.
And even when the game got dropped
Hmm.
by hospital for a long time, I just kind of kept it a giraffe.
Yeah, like what I mean is like, so I looked into your like, what do you call it, like essence of good game design, and I know one of the things you mentioned is like a button should always do something,
Yes.
even like when you're not able to, like, let's say jump, there should be some sort of input.
Yeah.
So was this whole sitting down and waving and all of that, was that part of that philosophy?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. I just wanted the confirmation that the button works. Yeah. Now, obviously, like if you jump in midair, like spam jump, it won't work. But
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't completely thorough in that.
Well, I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
But again, that's another cool thing. Like, it always feels like you can, you know, do something throughout the game.
I'd say I'd say that's important, and then also just blocking out your work before you commit it to art,
Hmm.
because the game should be fun,
Yeah.
with absolutely no artwork. So that's kind of, I think more people get that wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I just saw a video about that like yesterday, like where you should focus on getting the game done first before like making it look good, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you, like, there is a, you know, wave button and a sit button. How do you balance small details like that and, like, for example, the whale, I think it's a whale, the bones that you can, like, basically play a musical instrument. How do you balance having small details like that and, like, while still, I don't know if you had a deadline, but still, like, releasing a game, you know, not forever spending time adding detail?
I guess that kind of comes down to priorities.
Hmm.
Okay, so for one, I didn't really have a hard deadline for this game for a
Hmm.
long time while I was working on it. I just knew I had to make progress, that's all. One of the priorities with this game was that the first area be just fun,
Hmm.
like fun to explore. Because you're designing this, when you're designing a game for kids, so clarify, this is also for adults too, like whoever
Yeah.
enjoys platformers.
Like a
but
family-friendly
mostly for
game, yeah.
kids.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I knew kids just screw around.
Yeah.
They don't get very far in games.
Yeah.
So the first area is just the screw around zone.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want. Just swim in the ocean. You'll find fun details there. You'll hit the bones. They'll make sounds.
Yeah.
That was the first sound designer's idea. We had another sound designer in the office who composed some of the music.
Mm.
It's Adam Ludwig. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Like those
No.
details matter. Yeah. Like if you hit a cube in the alternate dimension area, like the hub dimension area, you'll see the cube split apart and like reform.
Yeah.
I think those details are just important because
100%.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah. If you didn't have them, the game would be
A lot more stale, yeah. Like, if nothing's interactive in the world, it doesn't feel like it's a world. It's just a bunch of game objects.
yeah, it would be playful. Yeah.
And
The
that's
whole,
that's
the
important,
keyword behind
right?
The game is playful.
Exactly. That's an
Yeah.
important thing with platformers, and especially when, you know, hospitals and kids and all of that. So yeah, we talked a bit about your game dev journey. So I know you worked on. Sorry, I can only talk or play. I can't do both at the same time. So I'm gonna stand.
That's fine. Don't
I'm
worry.
gonna sit for a second while I talk. So you worked on a bunch of different projects, like before this. Like, could you talk a bit more in detail about them? Like, I know you worked on Air Current, which is actually, I can see some of the DNA from that in Veil, like with
Yes.
hovering and all of that and gliding. Could you talk about that? And you have, I looked through your projects and you have Dungeon Generator and Maze of the Golden Blade, which is I think a point and click. Could you go through those briefly, but you know, and how you eventually, I guess, came to a platformer?
Yeah. So Air Current is probably the most important one. All those ones you're seeing were basically either college projects or me just screwing around in my free time with
Yeah.
game development.
Yeah.
So National Geographic Puzzle Explorer was my first internship. So that one, you know, that was a little more important.
Yeah.
Air Current was probably the most important project there. It never got finished. It was like my capstone project at Ferris, and I was intending to finish it, but it just didn't work.
Well, I mean, you can say that,
It
but at
worked
the same time,
functionally.
yeah, at the same time, like it grew into, I'm guessing, Castle. The things you learned through
It
Air
did.
Current, I'm guessing, turned into Castle on the Coast, and now with Veil, also known as well. So ultimately, it lives through those games.
I wanted to mention that because that's why Air Current's so important, because it was kind of like my first time taking Unreal seriously and trying to make a
Hello,
game,
Giraffe.
and just in general, trying to make a game from start to finish.
Yeah.
And all the
Call
lessons
yourself.
about Air Current, like all the mistakes I did, are basically how Castle on the Coast got made. Like the wall
Alright.
jumping.
I'll just call
Yeah.
you Bob.
Is
to keep it
from Air
simple.
Current.
My name
So
is
the way that the
Vandrick.
wall jumping this game
Remember
works
Look,
is you
Bob,
just
I don't
have
like
your
you, and you
gravity
Yeah.
lowered,
Yeah. Let
It
me
just
demonstrate.
magnetized to the wall.
Yeah. You can basically.
Yeah, I learned that feels really good.
It does feel really good. Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, you were talking about.
Oh, I was talking about Air Current mostly. Because Air Current is basically the spiritual parent of Castle on the Coast. Like, it was kind of this game where you glide around and do sword fighting and stuff, but it's also a platformer.
Yeah.
As a player versus player
See?
game. But
Can you just? Do you disagree that this is a bit scary? Anyways.
I mean, I kind of wanted it to be just a tad, but
Yeah.
it's so funny that.
Like you were talking about kids playing around and all of that, and I can imagine a kid playing this and like having like I would have probably had slight nightmares about this where I had to play when I was younger.
I mean, maybe, but you blow them up.
Yeah. So you talked about Air Current being like the first project you wanted to like properly start and finish. Ultimately, Castle on the Coast is a project you did start and finish. How?
I ditched Air Current, yeah.
I mean, again, it got reworked, so, yeah. But like, how was it basically making your first full-fledged multi-platform game. Like, what challenges did you have?
Oh yeah, so Air Camera was just gonna be PC, so it
Hmm.
wasn't the multi-platform bit. That came from having a publisher for Castle on the Coast, but I think the challenges were the level design was in a bad spot. So like my process was making these modular pieces
Yeah.
that fit together, and then I was like, okay, once I get these pieces done, I'll be able to like slap together a ton of levels, right? That's solely logical logic, but in game development that doesn't work too well because you need to know what your levels are supposed to be first
Yeah.
before you make the artwork. So I learned you should just block out basic shapes. Don't worry about the art at all. Like when you're making gameplay. So that's kind of a lesson. And then the game was supposed to be kind of like your sword fighting, parkouring, gliding. It had a very heavy movement emphasis, and through that movement emphasis, I learned kind of how to make a good controlling 3D platformer character. And kind of like some of the principles behind that. So one of the principles is, let me see, not forcing movement, I guess. Like you let the velocity of the character do its thing.
Yeah.
So for the wall running, that's the clearest expression of that, where I just lower the character's gravity. I'm not forcing you to run sideways. I'm not forcing you to like snap to like one.
Yeah, like
to,
nothing's
your vertical
hard-coded.
axis. Yeah, you can just jump up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I learned like what you limit and what you don't. So like in this game, you can just jump up walls.
Yeah, you can basically like and I like that because you've got like these big hub areas and you can basically like it's in sandbox and you can just I can go to the top of this building and collect, you know, objects, and it's something that's kind of unique to this game because you can kind of like break sequences, and I'm sure like I've gone out of order, but I kind of like that about the game. Like it feels like you can just kind of make your own, like Fabraz from like the guys behind Demon Turf talked about expressive platforming, and I think that's something that shows here where you can kind of just finish the game or go through the game the way you want to, like not just specific platforming challenges, but the entire level itself, which is cool.
Veil's like one step away from that, but it's designed in such a way that it's gonna have open segments like this too. Like,
I played a bit of the demo, and yeah, I see what you mean. It's a lot more story focused, and I've seen also it's a bit more horror focused, which I like seeing. Like just the development, like you're not just sticking to one specific thing. Like you're not making a Castle on the Coast 2, or you know, sticking to cutesy giraffe platformers. You're doing something.
legally I can't really.
True.
So
I mean, you could always
forced to,
do a
but-
knockoff giraffe. But yeah, sorry, I'm just screwing around here. I'm not exactly sure where I'm supposed to go.
Oh, go to the turn left.
Left.
Turn left again. That's the tower.
Here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Turn left again.
Oh yeah, totally. And I
Anywhere where there's the purple
Purple,
vortex.
yeah.
I think people never really caught on to this while playing.
no,
but anywhere where there's a purple vortex.
I noticed that while going through the game a bit before, just before this video. So that's also another cool thing, like directing people towards the main objective if they want to actually go for it.
Yeah. I guess we don't have enough stars yet.
Yeah, I need 4 more. So another thing I like is something that I liked about the PS2 platformers, and I mentioned this in the previous dev chat, is just the amount of like random things you can play with, like the jetpack that I have right now, or the car in I think the library. Again, was that something you like came naturally, or is it something like, oh, this level needs a bit more, you know, spice?
The car has a funny story, and that basically the CEO of the ad company, he wanted to pitch the game to Red Bull.
Okay.
So he's like, I want to add like a skateboard, a motorcycle, and then later he wanted a car for like a car company. And so I just kind of like threw a skateboard in, and then the skateboard logic was used for the motorcycle, so I could drive a motorcycle around. And then I added like a stunt park for it. Oh no, the stunt park was for the car. Sorry. Yeah, then that's to add a car, and so I used the motorcycle logic of the car, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna add a car, but I'm gonna add rockets to it.
Of course.
Because I liked playing Rocket League, so. So he let me do that.
I never expected Red Bull to be part of the game story. Awesome.
Anyway, so obviously those deals went through because now the game's sponsored by Valid Children.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting, very different video.
It probably, yeah, I mean, the game probably wouldn't have lived as long. I don't know.
What about the jetpack? Like, what's the story behind that? How do you come up with, you know, like a jetpack wielding giraffe?
Oh, so actually this level, I designed this level around the jetpack mostly, which is why the things are like farther apart a lot. So I was just trying to figure out like something new.
Sorry,
I was just trying to figure out like a new thing for this level area. So that's the story behind the jetpack.
So it was something that came up early. It wasn't something like you added midway through the development of the level.
It was midway through the game's development, but yeah, as soon as I started this area, I was just like, I want a jetpack. I don't know really how to describe the logic other than just.
No, I mean,
it would be fun.
That's the beauty of it. Like the way you come up with the ideas is just completely natural. Like you do something and you stumble onto something else, and it come up with something completely new. Which
I need to like tap back into. I guess Veil. I feel like I've gotten that with the Veil's levels, but yeah, this game had it everywhere.
Yeah. So, talk to me a bit about the shift to Veil. Like, was it a conscious idea to go back to that air current kind of feel? Like, was that the game you always wanted to make, and this was like, I don't want to say a stepping stone, but something on the way there?
Yeah, so it came from the desire to like say something with my work, I think. I mean, ultimately Castle on the Coast is actually very expressive, I guess, and sharing my feelings on things, whether it be just how playful it is, or like the story itself.
Yeah.
But I think what I kind of realized. Let me try and make this answer more concise here.
No worries.
Yeah. So Veil is Air Current's spiritual successor. Veil is like the game I wanted to make. I don't have any regrets though making Castle on the Coast though. Castle on the Coast is very near and dear to my heart, and I think the fact that it's a kids game put me in the correct mindset, because when you think about a kids game, you could think about it in a negative way where like, oh, you can just make something garbage, kids won't care.
Yeah, kids
but
know.
Like, I was like, no, kids will care.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be like very playful and fun. Like it's gonna have a sense of humor. I mean, I have a sense of humor already, so that I just kind of like tapped into that more. I guess. It forced me to think playfully, and I think while I developed Veil, the game has a much more darker story. And Castle on the Coast has a dark story too, but Veil has like a more explicitly dark story. And as I make it, I think all that fun I had with Castle on the Coast mechanics and like just general world, I'm gonna like do with Veil, even while making a darker game. Like, I don't know, just the fact that I consider Castle on the Coast a stepping stone, but also
but it's still something you put in like your full effort into. It wasn't just
it's currently the thing I made.
Yeah.
Like, so it's definitely like my everything right now in terms of what I've accomplished in my career.
Mm.
Yeah. Veil isn't out yet, and until Veil's out, like
Yeah.
it's not a thing I made.
Yeah. So, back to Castle on the Coast. Another thing I like, another small detail, and I think might go back to that, tie back to the hospital theme, is the little brother mode, basically, like the co-op mode,
Yeah.
which I can't showcase right now. But how'd that come about?
So it came from my boss.
Okay.
Not the CEO.
Not the
but,
Red Bull guy.
No,
Yeah.
I had a more direct boss who was like in charge of like video production. And let's see. So his little kid played the game throughout the game's development, and that's kind of like where I got the perspective of a little kid as I was working on it. And he'd always tell me how his son reacted to different parts of the game that I added.
Was there anything that was like, oh no, what have I done?
What I did make his kid cry once.
Okay, that's an oh no, what have I done?
Early, one of the first levels I made for the game was this huge forest, and you just kind of just keep falling down, and like dying. But the part that made him cry was this giant chicken I put in the level. It would like snipe you with eggs. Like it's kind of like almost like a dinosaur. Like, it's gonna be a giant chicken, that'd be funny. But it's sort of like a hiding from smog scenario where it'd come up from behind a tree, then it saw you and start shooting eggs at you. That's where the giant chickens come from in that park, by the way, is the prototype model I had for that. So he started crying because the chicken kept killing him like over and over and over again, like relentlessly. So, okay. Anyway, back to the squirrel mode. I'm gonna call it squirrel mode.
Sure.
Where you can play co-op in this game. So that came from my boss saying, "Hey, I have a little daughter, and like she wants to play the game too, but she's not quite good enough at games yet." Like my son is, and he just add like a co-op mode where she can tag along, and
cool.
So that's where the squirrel came from. Was it wasn't specifically for his daughter, but it was very much like this is going to be a situation that comes up a lot. I think. Yeah,
definitely.
Could you add this? Yeah.
Like I played with someone who has basically no gaming instincts, and like it helped like go through the game as co-op basically, because otherwise if it was just a regular co-op thing, don't think would have been able to do that. I also love that you can just spam acorns and flowers around for no reason. That was funny.
Yeah, that was fun to make. I liked.
So what speaking, like we're talking a lot about all these platformers and everything, like how did you balance like basically harkening back to old school platformers while making something fresh and new? Like was that were you trying to emulate classics, or also like what games inspired Castle on the Coast as well? Sorry, that's a very heavy loaded question.
Oh no, it's fine. The biggest inspiration was Super Mario 64 because I played the heck out of that game on my DS. And the level design is very inspired by it. I watched like let's plays of the game, just trying to figure out what the secret sauce was because I was really struggling with level design. I think one thing I got away from it was just how condensed everything was. Like there's interesting like obstacle after interesting obstacle, like all in these like small areas. Yeah. And so the condensation of the game, I call it, like is very much inspired by that.
So basically, like you mean like talking about going from interesting point to another interesting point and what's in between, like make that not boring. Is that what you're talking about?
Who's the good guy now? Huh?
Yeah, like don't make huge open spaces, basically.
And you talked about that chicken level as well. Like, how much of the things you worked on, how much of your work have you scrapped that's not in the game?
a lot.
And is that something you
I would
advise
say-
people to do, like to stop
Well, they're
holding on to
surprised.
things that just don't work and try something new?
I guess we have to settle this.
Yeah, I mean, I think how good your game is
In
the sum of, like, a big part of it is how much you throw away.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you,
This is nice.
your whole game's gonna be good if you throw away the bad parts.
Hmm.
If you don't throw away the bad parts, your game's gonna kind of be this mix of good parts then like meh parts.
Yeah.
There's still a few meh things in the game, like people didn't like the submarine for the most part.
Sorry, the what?
So, the
Oh.
submarine.
Oh yeah. No, I mean that was like the same thing as the car and the skateboard and all of that. Like that's for me, that was something I enjoyed. Like it adds more depth.
I'm glad. You liked it. I liked it too.
And that's the thing. As long like if I were to make a game, I'd make a game that I like. So I guess that's all that matters.
I'm not
Yeah.
feeling threatened.
I think there's a second part to that question. You're asking me what my biggest inspiration was. and
Yeah, like in
then-
terms of games. So you were talking about Super Mario.
Yeah, and like what made a platformer, balancing old school versus new school.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'll say I didn't really pay attention to like if it was old school or new school.
You're just making
I just
something
made
fun.
the game I wanted to
Hmm,
make.
hmm, hmm.
Let's see. Let's
I knew I
see
wanted to
how
be
you
playful,
handle
and I knew I wanted to like screw around with like the velocity of the character a lot and make it so you can accomplish things by any means necessary, I guess, with your moves. So, because I consider like if you have to use a specific move to get across something, I consider that lock and key design, and by that I mean the game's telling you how to play.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's how a game should work.
Yeah, I get
I
that.
think the game should let you play with your tools, I guess,
Yeah.
and experiment.
So you mentioned Super Mario 64. Are there other games other than that that like inspired this one way or another? It doesn't have to be a platformer, obviously.
I mean, I think the art style is very Wind Waker-y.
You earned it.
Hmm.
And I'm a man of honor.
I loved Wind Waker
Yeah,
growing up.
Bob.
Just
Celebrate while you can. There's
that
no
was
way
usually
you'll find me other
inspirational for
keystones.
my artwork. So
Now, if you'll
I'll say
excuse
Wind
me,
Waker just
I have some ice
aesthetically.
sculptures to make.
And I love the cell. I don't know if it's cell shaded, but I love this like stark look. Adds a lot, and it fits in with the. I'm gonna probably put a video overlay, but the beginning cutscene, like where the story is explained and all, so fits in well with that.
yeah. It's so actually it isn't cell shading. It's just normal shading.
Okay.
But there's kind of like a technique to it where the darker the colors get, the more. I'm going to tell you something very technical, but
Go ahead.
if any developers here want to make the same look, you know, you got the tune outlines, so that's the first thing. But then the second thing is the darker the color is, the more metalness it has, and that means it'll give it a more flat look. So that's my secret sauce for
Awesome.
the colors working the way they do.
So we talked about the inspirations for this game. Are there like what? And you talked about growing up, playing Super Mario, and you mentioned Wind Waker as well. What are your three, favorite platformers out there? Older than
Platformers
new.
specifically?
Yeah, platformers specifically. We can talk about non-platformers as well.
Yeah. A Hat in Time has to be one of them, I think.
Yeah, that was like the first big indie one, right?
Yeah, that game is just like it actually doesn't have very dynamic mechanics. So you'd think I wouldn't like it as a game designer, but like it's just the raw presentation.
Yeah.
What carries it, I guess. And you just it feels good to control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that game. I played a lot of platformers.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there.
Super
I
Mario
don't
Galaxy games.
But yeah, Super Mario Galaxy 1 or 2 or both, I guess.
I'm gonna say one the most, but 2 was, obviously also really awesome. Like just in terms of gameplay. I think I prefer the first one just because it felt more well-rounded in terms of having a story that drew you into. And like a world, while the second one was kind of like, let's just get straight to the gameplay, like gameplay all the way.
Yeah.
So that's why I prefer the first one, even if the second one was awesome.
Yeah.
Third one. I don't know if does Mirror's Edge count? I don't know.
Yeah, it does. Definitely, it definitely does. I've played a bit of it. It's a different type of platformer. Obviously, it's not like a cartoony character or anything. But you're still, again, platforming over things. You're jumping over things.
maybe I'll pick more platformer for the third one. You know, I actually haven't played that many 3D platformers.
Really?
I guess I probably should give a shout out for my boy, Super Mario 64.
Yeah. So that's okay. So for that's platformers. What about regular old any non-platformer game?
Yeah. So my taste buds are a lot different than platformers. I think it's probably because I work on them.
Yeah.
But let's see. I always put Breath of the Wild on the list because at the time I played that game, I was very burnt out in game development.
Yeah.
And that game was basically took the Zelda franchise and just was like, we're gonna do something completely different,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be awesome. And yeah, that game was an incredible experience for me to play.
I've heard a lot of good things about it. Yeah.
Yeah, just the feeling of being in the wild, I guess, and it's very relaxing. Yeah, you just explore. Like Zelda games are usually pretty. You have an objective to go to. In that game is very like, yeah, you got an objective, but
Figure
just
it out.
enjoy the world along the way.
Yeah.
And let me see, Subnautica is a big game for me. It just kind of occupies a lot of real estate in my head, I guess.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about it. The swimming in this game is very like Subnautica inspired. Like I put a little more polish into it just because I enjoyed Subnautica so much. I played it while working on this. My third game. I don't enjoy playing it anymore because I played the living heck out of it, but probably Deep Rock Galactic.
Okay, that's the the multiplayer one, right?
Yeah, it's the multiplayer PvE shooter.
I completely forgot about this part, the ball thing. How did this come about?
Oh, that was it. That was just the hidden ball.
Oh.
I just threw balls in everywhere.
Why not? Yeah, so I noticed, I don't know much about Deep Rock Galactic, but I noticed, like, at least with the other two, like, it's a lot of focus on exploration and, like, discovery and things like that. So I guess that was a very important thing for you.
Yes. Yeah, like I think the common theme behind the games I like. Oh, I should have mentioned Outer Wilds, but I don't know. Deep Rock Galactic deserves a spot, I think.
Let's give them a joint spot.
Exploration games are my favorite. Like games where it feels like you're on an adventure.
Yeah, agreed. And again, I'm guessing that's something you want to convey in both this and Veil as well.
Yeah, I think this game has it for sure. Veil will have it even more because Veil will just be like bigger, like, and it's designed so you get lost a bit. But like as you get lost, you discover new places that are crazy.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So it's Veil.
Yeah, exploration games.
Let's talk a bit about Veil. Is it a bit like, I'm guessing it's more of an open thing? Is it like the same thing as this, where it's there's a hub area and a bunch of segmented levels, or is it something completely different?
It's kind of like a teleport hub, but there isn't like a in-world hub. If that makes sense.
I think so.
Like Castle on the Coast has the stained glass dimension.
Yeah.
That acts as like a teleport area where you can get between places really fast.
Yeah.
Veil kind of has that too, but it sort of throws you into a world where all the levels are connected, like in a spider web,
Cool.
and you kind of just like exploring and figuring out what the spider web looks like over time. If that makes sense.
I think so, yeah. Like it's not the exact same structure, and that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like Dark Souls.
Hmm.
No doors were locked. Yeah, where you start seeing how the world interconnects.
Awesome. And I like that because it also, I'm guessing, has a lot more verticality than Dark Souls as well, which is cool. Like you're
Yeah.
flying all over, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. The game doesn't shy away from going up and down.
Yeah.
And even more like, I think one of the things that's gonna make Veil stand out is the style level design, and that it's very, like if you discover a cavern, like it's gonna be like cavernous. There'll be parts where you like drop through. It's at the core of the world more. You start seeing like a whole, like one part, it's blocked out. It's not like quite in there all the way yet, but a part of the game takes place in like the caverns of the world, and the way you get down is you drop them through a hole and you like fall through like a whole strategy to like a lava field, but you don't like actually go there. You just fall through, like drop into a hole to kind of indicate how deep you're going in.
Cool. So you've got basically the entire, I'm not gonna say the entire, but you've got like the basic structure and like the, I don't know, like the lore of the world of Veil figured out. Cool.
Yeah, it has a very strange. Yeah, something I didn't do much with Castle on the Coast was the world building. Like, there's there's kind of like a big monster that attacked this place. This place was made by wizards. Veil's story is like, I describe it as a fairy tale gone sci-fi.
Cool.
And it's a multi-dimensional world. So I guess Castle on the Coast is multi-dimensional almost, but Veil kind of takes the idea even further.
Awesome.
Not in the sense of a multiverse.
Yeah.
It's not that style of writing where you see like a copy of yourself or whatever.
You're gonna see George the Giraffe make a cameo.
It's more the idea that your character starts off thinking that the world's only what they see, and then they fall into another dimension and start seeing that the world's actually like way bigger than she thought it was.
And again, I like that goes back to that whole like exploration, like big world thing that you like in the games you mentioned as well. So that's cool.
Yeah, and then she also encounters the monster, which is a whole other rabbit hole about like the monster is very connected to how the world functions.
Awesome.
Because he's not just a creature. He's something a bit more. So
cool. I'm excited to go through that and like figure out what is happening. Like, that's awesome. So Veil is a game in the future. Let's talk about other future games. What games are you looking forward to? Let's say top 3 most anticipated games.
Hey there.
You know, I actually don't really follow game news that often. So I don't really know.
Please don't be afraid.
I'm looking.
My name is
For the longest
Alejandra.
time, I was looking forward to
lost?
Hytale.
Don't know too much
The
about that.
Minecraft game.
Cool.
Oh, your name is
But
George.
it just kind of slowed down development,
I hope
and whenever you read a blog post from the team, it's very like, I don't know, almost sounds too corporate, or like to have the game developer version of corporate.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, it's obviously written by game developers, but they're very like process oriented and not so much what the player would enjoy, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really know. It might turn out great. So, but it'll probably be
She was a kind person.
I'm a little worried it'll become a free-to-play thing, and that'll shift the financial incentive to like making design decisions that aren't fun.
Yeah, and that's the worst. And I'm guessing that was a good thing. Like, that's something you probably didn't encounter with Castle on the Coast, other than the whole Red Bull thing. I'm guessing you didn't have too many like interjections or like, you know, make George more, you know, more of an action star or anything. I'm guessing that was one of the good things that.
Well, it had a little bit of that, but
Hmm.
not much. When working with the
let me know if you
hospital,
need
they didn't want the
anything,
word nasty
please.
being used anywhere.
Really, that's a weird one.
They're ours to deal
So
with.
there's a Homestar
Farewell,
Runner
George.
reference in the game,
Mm.
or your kid goes like,
The thick and
nasty.
nasty.
And that's like a reference to a Homestar Runner
Hmm.
video. I guess that does sound like a gross thing nowadays, but back at the time when it came out, it wasn't.
No, I mean, at least it's not like anything like fundamentally change the game. It's just like small things like that. That's cool.
One change really bothered me. I'll tell you this, and this made me want to make Veil a lot differently. Was at the end when Alejandra is like kind of giving Vendrick a hard time, like all the kids a hard time, like telling them to get along.
Yeah.
A line that got replaced was, "We're all the bad guys, okay?" And to me, it got replaced with, "Can't we just all grow up?"
Oh.
And that was a very important line to me because fundamentally the game's about everyone being the cause of the problem they're having at the castle. And until they recognize that, they won't get along. And I think it bothered me so much because the reason was the hospital viewed that as me saying their kids were the bad guys, and they're like, we can't have you say that.
Yeah.
And that really bothered me. One, because this game isn't actually about the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, the kids in here aren't like really the kids at the hospital. So that logically bothered me. But the second thing that bothered me about it was kind of a refusal to see evil in the world, I guess. Because I think this is very philosophical. Not everyone will agree with me on it, but I think something that's very vital to understand is that there's evil in everyone. Because if you understand that, that explains a lot about people's actions, and makes you more able to be a better person yourself, I guess.
So I guess that change kind of changed, like that one change affected like the overall message you wanted to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of it got through, but I wish I could have said it outright. I guess what the moral of the story was.
Well, I guess with Veil you can go ahead with that because it's just like there's no publisher as of right now, right? So you can just completely do what you want to do.
Yeah, and if the game got a publisher, they probably wouldn't ask me to change the story much. But I guess like before you get published, they'll turn you down for whatever.
Yeah.
So they have power at that stage, I guess.
So sorry, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh no, that's fine, dude. I will sit here for like 2 more hours.
No worries. So how did it feel releasing your first game? Like, what was it? A sense of relief? Was it, oh god, I could have done more? Was it like, how did you feel?
I knew the game was ready. Like it had a good release.
How'd you like? When did you like understand that the game was like release ready?
I play the game I speedrun the game every single time I put a build out, and that way I catch any terrible bugs because there's always one. I never know what it's gonna be, so I had a good feel for the state of the game at all times, and I don't know, I polished every single corner I felt was lacking. I wasn't like pushed up against the deadline ever really, so so there wasn't any stress there. But I'd say releasing a game changed me a lot.
Really? Awesome.
Well, so it had a very you think like a game made for a hospital and like would have a very like good feels about it, but it's actually really hard working at the hospital.
Really?
And my publisher. My publisher wasn't as bad, but there's a lot to unpack with that. But I'll just say instead of unpacking it all, let me just tell you the general things I learned. I think one, I had maybe a sense of meaning that came from game development. And as soon as you get that thing where you release the game and it's done,
It's like, what now?
yeah, like I had a huge amount. I get a huge amount of satisfaction from people playing the game and watching them play it and like having fun, them telling me how their kids love playing it. So that was still there, but I think I started realizing there was no like. That wasn't it. That wasn't like where my sense of purpose came from. And that really bothered. Like, I saw just how fragile the game was because there's a lot of points where this game would have been like canceled and never would have happened.
Yeah.
Partially through the hard things I was talking about.
Yeah.
And working at the hospital, and so I just saw how fragile this thing I was putting meaning in, I was investing meaning into, was.
Yeah, that was out of your hands, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm a Christian, so I'll give you like a Christian answer to all of this. I think like as soon as I kind of like tried living my life for things other than God, I guess I just wasn't a happy person. I was a very like very broken, I guess, like fundamentally. And I say this as someone who's like a Christian the whole time working in the game. What was happening there was I was someone who took value in the image of being a Christian, like being a good person, and I started realizing people aren't like, speaking a game about people not being good, you know, I started realizing I wasn't good. Like, I was not a good person. And I didn't have anything on anybody else.
I mean, and that's a good, like, that's cool, because that's, like, creating art also helps with self-discovery, so it's cool that you got to, you know, in some way learn more about yourself through that.
Yeah, that was, so that's kind of how it changed me. And the game wasn't, also wasn't like, I'd say the game is like creatively successful, right? Like, but I would say financially it wasn't successful.
Okay.
So, I think when you see like how small you are in the world too, I guess.
I get that, and you get that like once you like leave college or whatever, and you're suddenly like, oh god, like I am just a little fish in this 8 billion person world, you know?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So transitioning into next question, so I've realized, like, because I've been wanting to make games for a while and I've worked on dabbled in projects here and there, but how do you cope? Because I've realized one of the most difficult things with making games is just sticking to it, and like the actual, it's not the making the game, but the actual like mental, like the human part of it, the human aspect of it. So what advice would you give aspiring game devs?
I think for Braz's advice, I saw the part where he gave advice on
like
this.
just do it, basically.
That's normally the advice I give, so he already covered that. And to sum it up is basically just make things. Like, don't worry, just make things. And what I'd like to add to that is it's also the best tutorial. Yeah. If you start trying to make a game, you'll learn so much that you can't learn in a classroom. So if you think you have to do all this prep work before you make your first game, don't just start making small games. Cool. Yeah, so that's the first thing. The human aspect, I'll tell you about that a little bit. And I guess first thing is start small. Like, just make small things first. So that will, if you're not ready to commit a huge amount of your life to making something, that'll kind of help you get ready. Yeah. Once you're like a few years down the line and you decide, I want to finally make Castle on the Coast or something. Yeah. actually make something big,
Hmm.
because this game took like 3 years to make
Yeah.
full time. I'd say having the paycheck helped.
Yeah.
You know, obviously. So I don't want to dismiss the importance of that, but that forced me to work on the game every single day, even when I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But now that I'm working on Veil, where I don't get a paycheck, the thing that a few things is the hardest part is starting.
Yeah.
So every single day. So
Yeah.
just work for 5 minutes. And to see how you feel after that.
Yeah.
And you'll usually find you can actually keep working.
Yeah. That's what everyone says for. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think a big thing is don't do it for money.
Yeah. Definitely.
And just in terms of motivation, don't do it because you have to finish the game. Don't think about those things. Just make something because you're having fun with it.
Yeah. And it shines through the game. Like, you can see it in the game.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. And I learned that just by burning out of Veil multiple times. I'm very good at like sticking to things. So like even though Veil's been really hard for me to make in terms of just motivation, I've stayed with it. I think one of the things I learned when I like actually started making progress on the game is I only made progress when I was just making things for fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I get that.
yeah, so forget about the money, forget about the fame, forget about having to do this because you feel some sense of duty to doing it, maybe for the culture or whatever. Just make it because you're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And I think like your story also, like with you know, like working with a hospital and a brand agency, like it just, the thing that it showed me is that basically everyone has their own story. It just like you can carve out your own different way into the game industry one way or another. Like it can be an ad agency or it can be something completely different. You don't have to necessarily, you know, get into EA or Activision or one of those big studios. And that's a bit inspiring because like if there's a will, there's a way. It's a common saying for a reason.
I think yeah, I got really lucky. I always kind of go like, God kind of put me in the right place at the right time. I feel like, and I think I'll kind of break that down a little bit. In college, there's one of my school projects was making just a level, like just a 3D environment.
Yeah.
And I decided to like plus it up by making it interactive. So I kind of made like a very playful world with all kinds of things you could discover. And I was like, dang, if I got to do this for a job, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
And then I got this job at ad agency. I actually hate advertisements.
Yeah,
I don't like marketing. Now I have more of a respect for it, obviously, but now that I like seeing what goes into it, but you know, it turns out that job was doing exactly that.
Awesome.
Was I had this boss who wanted to make a game for kids. So like the best way to do that was to make levels that are playful and yeah, they could explore like this. And so
yeah, like honestly, I'm just going around like it's just fun just jumping around collecting things. So, yeah. And I didn't even
this is
know.
my favorite part of the game.
Yeah, like because it feels like very free flowing, which I like.
This is kind of a type of design I wanted to do for Veil. Was this type of stuff where it's just kind of like this chaotic world.
Yeah, and you get into the like I'm getting into the zone, even with the music. Like I think Veil has some similar music where you're just like zoning out and like just platforming and jumping and flying around. That's awesome.
I want Veil to be a vibe.
So that's, as far as I can think of, that's all the questions on I was gonna say on the top of my head, but on this little piece of paper that I have down here. Do you have anything you want to shout out or talk about, or anything we haven't touched on?
Ooh. trying to think.
Obviously, check out Veil Alter Unknown, the demo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's a pretty cool demo.
it is a pretty cool demo. I can attest to that.
If you guys ever do play it, it has like not one, but like everybody's gonna find something different when they play it. I'd say I recommend playing that demo 3 times because it's 3 different final areas you can find, and each one's completely different.
Cool.
So, yeah, I'll just talk about this level, I guess. This level was the final area made in the game. This was often like people's favorite level. And it kind of reflects my feelings on the game, where it's kind of like I seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Maybe there's sense of peace with that. So, and I think it's also this is a level where I discovered Blender,
Oh, cool.
so that was cool.
Awesome.
Most of the game was made in 3D Studio Max.
Which one do you prefer?
Oh, Blender for sure.
Okay, cool. I was thinking like, okay, maybe.
So I'll tell you my experience with that. So 3D Studio Max is so that's like paid software, right, by Autodesk. And it's really good for modeling, but it's very disorganized and clunky. Once you learn the hotkeys, you can get good at it. But
yeah.
Blender, as soon as I figured out you can configure it like 3D Studio Max, like have some of the same core control schemes, like switching between gizmos using QWER, and then dragging with the gizmos instead of like doing this hotkey driven approach to moving things. As soon as I figured that out, like Blender was like, this is way better. Like the interface is so organized, it starts up so fast.
Awesome.
Like, I feel like I can actually be an artist in this thing, and yeah.
I mean, look at this. You created art.
Thank you.
Where can people find you online?
I don't really engage with social media at the moment.
Yeah, I get that.
Like... Holy, wait, is this a bug?
What? Oh yeah, I actually didn't even notice it.
Huh.
Let's say it's
it's
intentional. It's part of the aesthetic. It's part of the vibe.
Yeah.
You know, it's a feature, not a bug.
I bet. Oh, I bet if you wall slide, it'll go away.
Oh, let me find a wall. Oh, Oh yeah, it did.
There we go.
Awesome. You can basically see the Matrix at this point.
Well, I know the cause of a lot of those bugs. Actually, I don't know the cause of that one, but
I think
know
it happened when I died, which was
will fix it.
interesting.
Yeah,
That's incentive for at least one view on this video. Watch back the video and see what triggered it, you know?
Yeah, you can find me on Discord, I guess, if you find a Discord server.
And that's on your website? You have a website with a lot of information, right, as well?
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can pull up what that's called. Yeah, if you want to send me an email, peterlantz3d.wordpress.com. That's where most people contact me. But yeah, I also have a link tree. Peter Lantz.
And I cannot add links to my YouTube just yet, but I'll add those links just when I can.
Well, I'll just tell you the name of the link tree verbally.
Yeah.
Peter Lantz Dev. And my last name is spelled Lantz. So that's my link tree.
Awesome.
And you can find everything about me. Find my Discord there. I'm always active on Discord. Like if someone messages me on my server, I instantly reply.
Yeah, it's a lot less toxic than other social media. I get that.
Yeah, I plan on maybe getting active on Blue Sky. I just kind of found like Twitter got more body, I guess. Like,
yeah,
I'm not into the politics of it all, but it does seem like Blue Sky's a different vibe. I guess
I
want to get on. That's more creative. So.
But yeah, I'll stop jumping around. Thanks so much, Peter. I hope to play more of Veil soon. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Deep within, you're in pain. Maybe you're afraid of showing it. Or maybe you're drawing a blank. You can't blame yourself. You can't blame others. That's why you need me.